One world, one community. I want to create a better world for my daughter Miranda. A recent diagnosis of leukemia forced me to think more seriously about this. By 2050, Miranda will be nearly my age, 52. What kind of world will it be? The answer lies where humanity began, Africa. There are two possible Africas in 2050. One is healthy, peaceful, prosperous, free, and a source of strength to the world. The other is disease-ridden, war-ravaged, poverty-stricken, authoritarian, and a source of disease and terrorism to the world. Which Africa exists then depends on what we do now. The developed world and the African Union must create a permanent African peacekeeping force and an African Marshall Plan. Providing for Africa's security will reduce the risk of terrorism and ensure the survival of democracy. An African Marshall Plan will create prosperity in Africa and develop green technologies to make world prosperity more sustainable. Given this, the response of the developed world has been disheartening, to say the least. What could better illustrate the developed world's apathy than the Darfur peacekeeping mission stalling for want of 24 helicopters when NATO has over 18,000? The developed world can do what needs to be done. It lacks the political will to do so, however, because for most Americans and Europeans, Africa's troubles are mere abstractions. What's needed is to engage developed world public opinion. Enter One World, One Community. This program would turn every developed world secondary school into an NGO for an African community. If each of the 40,000 U.S. public and private secondary schools had an average of 50 students each in the program, and each student's parents involved 10 friends, 26 million people would become active lobbyists for the African Marshall Plan. Students would study African history and development aid and communicate with experts and with Africans in their adopted community. They would cooperate with their country's aid agency to help the adopted community and raise funds and awareness of that community's needs. Some students would visit the adopted community and receive development-related scholarships. This idea was originally my Clinton Global Initiative personal commitment. President Clinton has more recently endorsed the idea of high schools becoming NGOs in his book, Giving. Establishing government funding for such a program would make this vision a reality. My inspiration came from an event that took place in 1975. I was involved in the Mayaguez operation in which 3 Marines, Joseph Hargrove, Gary Hall, and Danny Marshall, were left behind and were murdered by the Khmer Rouge. I promised God to try to make the world a better place in their memory. Joseph, Gary, Danny, Semper Fi. Or as a great man once said, in our sleep, pain which cannot forget falls drop by drop upon the heart until, in our own despair, against our will, comes wisdom through the awful grace of God. And let us dedicate ourselves to tame the savageness of man and make gentle the life of this world. One world, one community, because every child deserves a better world.